My high sheet for the 8. Leo Coys and KTK. Lucas on the fly, causing turbulence. Causing waves on our way to the confluence. New voice for the fans. From the pitch to the stands. My high looks than the South Bank lads. Leo Coys and a whole knee crash. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. It's chance, I'm bound up, rounds, I love the head to the wars. If it's this, you're off the sea, free aid, this time is now. Locals on the jump to hold it down. Like the stream and do 5 stars. The mile high hearts burn, crash the car.
Crash, you filthy animal. How do we really get it going? How you doing, homie? What talk to me about that game, bro? How do we want to approach this? We are walking away with a crucial point from the BM. Is it the BMO State Bank there or whatever they call that joint?
Yeah, BMO Stadium, yeah, downtown LA.
Let's talk about it, my homie. The first half. I mean, what can you make of the game from the first half? The Rapids gave a good display, but now that I look at it, looking at the whole thing, was it really a dominant Rapids performance, or was that an LAFC that just said, hey, you guys could do whatever you want right now. We're going to be confident in either our counterattacking or the fact that you guys will not be able to pick the lock and unlock our defense and score a goal. We had a few chances. I want to say probably our biggest chances did probably come in the first half. LAFC kind of just laid there, waited for their chances, didn't get a sniff much for the first half. And it was really in the second half, Crash, where tables kind of turned. We had an LAFC team that decided to then pick up their attack, and fortunately for us, throughout the whole onslaught that LAFC tried to deliver, they were just not lucky enough to get the back of the net like we were in the first half as well. Crash, what were your thoughts on the first half, my homie? Did the Rapids approach it right, or did LAFC probably just approach it a little bit better?
No, I mean, first half, I think it was exactly what we would expect from Matt Wells and the Rapids right now. They played out of the back. They dominated possession. They kept possession. They really worked to find, those passes and getting them forward. I thought they did really well. LAFC didn't have really a whole lot of answers for anything we gave them in the first half, which I think might have been tactical. I think they let us make the movement and run around and we had, we had 700 accurate passes on the game to LAFC's 225.
Wow.
And so like you look at that and it's one of those situations where, it was a clear and obvious intention from LAFC to play us that way. And it looked like, and I kind of touched on it during the game, but it looked like LAFC was wanting us to do that. They wanted us to play. They weren't pressing us. They weren't doing any of the things you'd expect a team to do to try to win the ball back. They just waited for those opportunities in transition. And they never really came, which I was concerned with. I thought we'd make a mistake and I thought we would, it would get opened up a little bit more, but it didn't really happen in that first half, which I would commend the Rapids for sticking with their game plan, for playing really well. And they didn't make any, major mistakes there. I think there might've been 1 or 2 mistouches in that first half. And other than that, they didn't lead to anything, which I think was great. The team was really going after those second balls, which is huge, right? If they did make a mistake, they are going to win it back, which I think was what we need. So overall, the play from the Rapids was extremely good in the first half and dominant, but also there's a lot of energy that was expended in that first half. And I think, we started seeing it as we kind of got into the second. So a lot of really good opportunities in the first half. We had a couple shots. I think Hoffa had a really good opportunity that got on target, but that got blocked. So great start to the game for sure.
Well, and I'm taking a look here on the sofa score, and for the whole first half, bro, it was one-way traffic. I mean, it was literally we did have all the possession, but we just really didn't do much. Very little green for LAFC, which would have been for them. And yeah, it was just in the second half where things started to just get wonky for the Colorado Rapids. Um, what do you think of the lineup, Crash? He made the decision to leave out the players like Georgie, who has kind of been a bright spot. Of course, Paxton Aronson has been a pretty good spot for us as well. Do you feel like that kind of came back to bite us in the ass in the fact that, you know, we probably could have benefited from having that creative spark more in the first half where we controlled the majority of the possession and we're just not able to capitalize on the final ball or in that final action. You got to think maybe a player like a Georgie or even the Paxton Aronson, given those opportunities, may be able to bag them. But on the same side, but on the flip side of the same coin, would we have been able to withstand the onslaught, I mean, that LAFC gave us in the second half? Um, what do you think, man?
Yeah, looking at it, I think it's interesting because, I think one of our worst rated players on the game was Yapi, and I think in you watch the game, he didn't quite find a good form. He didn't have a bad game, like it wasn't a terrible game by any means, but he was the only one I thought was really struggling out there to find the right touches and the right passes. Like I think there's a couple opportunities he just drove straight into 1v1, but didn't have any it wasn't like he made a move. He just kind of decided to barge through. So I think if I were to make the change, I think Yappy would have been my switch for Georgie. But also Georgie's new. He went 90 last game and came in with Yappy later on. And so maybe it was just an opportunity to get Yappy some minutes and rest Georgie. And so that's the way I'm looking at it, is maybe it was just an ability to kind of rotate your players and with the minutes that they win on. Paxton, maybe the same situation. Maybe it was a thought, okay, we're going to get him rest for Vancouver. And so maybe this was just Wells's ability trying to rotate the team. I do think if we would have been able to go the other way and say Georgie maybe start with Sealy, because I think Sealy did have a really good game, then we possibly could have had some more chances. I think Georgie is better when he's fresh and plays into the game, or is, when they are tired and has players to play with, that he's coming in. So I thought, it's interesting. We'll have to see. We'll see how it plays out with Georgie and how where he sees best, because it's still brand new for the most part. But Yappy, I think it was just a rotation there, trying to get minutes and fresh legs. So we'll see Georgie get the start against Vancouver in the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, my homies, we are doing a live stream right now. This is going onto the podcast. If you guys are still in here, there's still more than 40 of you guys. Drop some questions in there, drop your opinions. Just because Crash and I are recording for the podcast, we're not going to ignore you guys. We have the hacker in here saying Colorado played very well against Miami, but today that was not effective as the last game. No, Crash, and that's just, I mean, we were home for the Miami game. We definitely had we had that, that 30th anniversary game. There's just a lot of vibes going on, certain circumstances that kind of, probably fueled the players too. And now, a quick turnaround, a Wednesday night game, a quick turnaround, a later kickoff, you know what I mean? There's going to always be variables for that. It was a different display from today.
Yeah.
It was a different display today than it was on the weekend. The glaring one being we just didn't get the goals. You know what I mean? We didn't get the goals today. A lot of similarities between the two games, Crash. We did control a lot of the possession. We did get a lot more of the passes, and we just weren't as clinical with our opportunities that we were in the game against Miami.
Well, so one thing to keep in mind, right? So Miami's not known for being solid defensively, right? We know that's probably their weakest link, is their defense. So our ability to kind of work through them makes sense. LAFC, I mean, they just conceded goals in regular play on Saturday. That's the first time, right? So them conceding goals is not an easy, scoring on them is not necessarily easy, right? And I think that's the key of it is San Jose was able to unlock that, which is great. We weren't able to, but I think that's the difference is that as you could see the play happening, as you could see everything going on, they were just clogging the midfield and being as compact as they possibly could to eliminate any chances there. So, really what I was kind of frustrated with is that we weren't getting clinical crosses into the box from outside, which is, I think, the one kind of concern that I have is that was the play that we should have been getting. We should have been getting that ball wide, deep, crossing into the box, getting a chance at it. Right. In reality, because they were to get the ball into the midfield was really tough. Or even if we could get the ball to the edge of the box and take a shot, there was probably 3 or 4 opportunities that I can count, that I can remember at least, but we didn't take an opportunity when we had it. And I think that's the challenge that we haven't been seeing. So the clinicalness of our finishing and our attack has always been a concern with the Rapids. We've been scoring a lot of goals lately, which has been great, but we played one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the league right now. So us not scoring isn't a terrible feat, but dominating possession and playing and really dominating the game, I think it's a good sign. I mean, one positive play though is they are a potent attack, and our defensive line played really, really well. Right. I'm hoping Jackson Travis is all right. I hope it's not a terrible knock there, but it's good to see, Cannon's back on the bench and we have some fresh wingback or fullbacks, which is good. But Zach got, had that nice, a couple of nice saves to keep it interesting. We got really lucky off that one off the crossbar. But that's kind of how the game goes sometimes. But we knew LAFC's make those happen, and that's the magic of LAFC at times. So good on us for being able to manage that.
Yeah. Just again, my homies, I just wanted to remind you, we are doing this live, and you can see I could turn my camera off there and you could still hear me. If you're thinking your camera shy, my homies, that's all right. You can still hop on and do and at least have your opinion heard if you want to, my homies. It's a still open invite. The link is in the chat. Yeah, would love to get some opinions. Crash, I just feel like, man, any other given day, bro, some of our opportunities today would have probably went in. I know we had a couple opportunities for that ball that you were talking about, played out wide, and that early cross sent in, and we just and those balls were kind of just a bit ahead of our players. And you just got to think, the way we're playing, bro, is it sustainable, Crash? Because you've touched on it. You touched on it at the end of the game there. You said, if we're gonna continue to play like this, we have Vancouver next. We have Vancouver next who will punish us. You know what I mean? We were very lucky today that LAFC kind of just let us do whatever we wanted to in the first half, and they left it a bit late. The momentum that they were getting, Crash. We thought the goal was coming. There's nobody in the chat that didn't think an LA goal was on its way, the way that we kind of just faltered. So what adjustments need to be made, bro, considering taking into consideration what we've seen in this game?
Yeah, it did look, and I think it's going to be the key of it is we were so dominant in the first half that it wasn't planned, or where it was planned. Like they wanted us to have it. And we got tired, just like I mentioned, and you could see it in the second half. They had more legs than we did at times, and we struggled at times. We did really well. We were able to manage it, and I think like Kosi Thompson, I think was a big key of it. You could see it. He still put everything in it. Don't get me wrong, he played phenomenally, but you're Atencio, another person. So the concern I have is that's not sustainable. That's where injuries happen, and if we keep pushing guys like that, then we have to be careful. So I would love to see more thoughtful substitutions. I think, we had one unused sub, I think, that we didn't, which I think Kosi for Keegan would have been a really smart play there. A fresh leg fullback who's going to be able to get those balls into the box that are, that is, and is going to be clinical at the same time. I think he would have been a good option there to give us some fresher legs wide. He's known to come in and played, pretty well when he gets forward too. So I would have liked to seen that. The only other thing I could think of is, again, Atencio was pretty ragged at the end of the day. That's a lot of running and a lot of tired legs. I think he's young and he can do that. But again, we saw the same thing happen to Cole Bassett. He ran and played every minute and was ran the most on the team. And was it in 24? And in 25, at the end of 24 and at the beginning of 25, he was hurt. And I think it came out. He just, you do that too often, you're gonna overextend your body, and it's not gonna be able to do it. So it's not sustainable. So managing our substitutions and our rotations is going to be huge. And I think also adjusting our play to ensure that we can finish a full 90 without being entirely gassed is going to be key, because it'll be interesting to see how Vancouver plays, because if they concede possession just like LAFC does, you're going to start seeing that's the play that people are going to go after us. Okay, take the ball all you want. You dominate away. And then we need to have an answer for it. So we need to either put the game away in the first half, or we need to be more thoughtful in our possession in the first half, so we have legs for the second.
Great shout. I'm trying to look here at the standings here. We're sitting in 7th after this game. Homies in the chat, let me know who you guys think, or who is your man of the match on the Rapids side. Let us know. I always like to pick Crash's mind on the podcast. I always ask him for the positives and the negatives. And now that we have more than 40 of you filthy animals still in the chat, let us know on this day where we just couldn't get it over the line, who was your man of the match for the Rapids? Who is your man that probably didn't live up to the hype? Who let us down, if anybody? And maybe a positive takeaway, my homies, a negative takeaway. Let us know down in the comments. Crash, would you be surprised if I told you our highest rating player, at least according to SofaScore, Rob Holding?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But he had a really solid game today. Like,
He
there
did.
was some really good play, really smart ideas. Like, he was clearing, and I mean, and right up against him, Lucas is not far behind him either. They as a center back pair played very, very well. But I'm just gonna throw it out there. San Jose 5-1 against Austin right now.
Wow.
They're at the
San
top of
Jose
the table.
flies
It's the
high,
second
homie.
table. Yeah, they are flying high. So they're top of the table. Granted, I think they're one game ahead of Vancouver, so they're almost equal in points. But that's going to be a tough one. So I mean, just goes to show you they're a top team, which makes sense why they dominated LAFC on Saturday. But just to go back to our where we're at in the standings, right? We're 7th, so we're square in the playoff picture at the current moment. We're 13 points or tied with FC Dallas, but we've got a 6-goal differential. Plus 6 goal differential.
That's key.
Today is our second clean sheet of the season. So all positive things, right? Against LAFC, a team that's known, I mean, granted this year they haven't been as clinical as they have in past, but that's a good solid thing. And we got, didn't score any goals against one of the best defenses, I think. But they have how many goals for? Goals against 6, right? So the other side of that, LAFC is goals 6 against, and Vancouver is 4 against, right?
Yeah.
So again, we've got a 15. We've had 15 dropped on us. So it's a good plus, good positive shift in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, and that just to what the homie Charlie was asking earlier, right? Like that's just helps break it down to understand exactly the Rapids are a much better team than we were last season for sure, and we're sitting pretty comfortable where we're at. I mean, we could easily be talking about a higher position if some of these other games had went our way, but um, we're we're we're, we're doing a good of account of ourselves, my homie. I do agree with you, Crash, that we left ourselves a bit short and not putting on Keegan Rosenberry. I know Keegan has been he's been a breath of fresh air every time he's been able to come on. He's came on and been an immediate impact in some games. We've seen him score goals. We've seen him, he's always quick to press the defender and get and try to win those second balls. And I think this game towards the end was crying out for a player like him. Um, Let's see here. Yeah, I'm looking at the ratings and Darren Yapi. What do you think would have went? Where do you think it went wrong for Darren Yapi on the day, homie? Not to pinpoint him, but just he obviously was the lowest rating Rapid. I mean, we was it just we didn't get the service to him? I don't really remember any big chance maybe that he fluffed.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the key of it is it just didn't he wasn't really engaging that well. I think he was there, he provided, I just don't think he could find the space, again, against a solid back line, right? So I think that was the difference. He came on and made the difference. And I think maybe the key of it too is that Wells knew what he needed him to do against like Miami, which is why he came on and immediately made an impact. So maybe he's that player that he's our Yappy hour. We know he's coming in and he's gonna do the job in the second half and come on with tired legs. And I think he's suited for that. He's played really well all season, but I think most of his goals come in that around that time or those opportunities. So yeah, I think, everybody has an off game. We played against a tough opponent. And I'm going to chalk it up to that. I don't think it's anything that he did necessarily wrong, but you could see he just wasn't as dynamic as some of the other players around him.
Yeah. No, for sure, bro. Just I think I kind of want to say my overall feel for this one. It's definitely not going to be a classic. It's not going to be one to remember, like a classic match. It was just a grind. We literally had to grind that point out. And even though it's not the 3 points, grinding out that victory in a hard spot. I know Logan mentioned it a little bit before in the live stream. That's our first point that we're walking away from that game, right?
Huge.
A bit of a physical match. It started to become physical in the second half. We've seen the yellow cards, players getting a bit more frustrated, where kind of neither team wanted to be the one to make the mistake. And the end result, a point each, it feels very different, probably depending on who you support, I would say, right?
Yeah.
From the Rapids point of view, massive point. From an LAFC point of view, that's probably points dropped the way they probably could have handled us.
I'll touch on that. I think if I'm an LAFC fan, I'm like, what the hell was that? I mean, at the end of the day, like they're looking at that going, why didn't we win that game? I mean, it's the Colorado Rapids. They never do it. You know what I mean? And they just came off of a very tough game against San Jose where they got dominated there. And then we come in and they kind of concede possession to us. And then they kind of come back in the second half because they have to. As a fan, I'm going to be like, what am I watching? What is this team, right? I mean, we're watching it going, oh, I'm excited. Our team's, playing better than they ever have, but that's LAFC. It's a difference. You're talking about a top of the table team every season. So, I mean, I'm not taking that as a win or a loss on our perspective.
Yeah.
But if I'm LAFC, it was absolutely a loss.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, my homie. I definitely do. Crash, a question I'll pose to you, and of course, the homies still 45 filthy animals in the chat. Big your guys' selves up.
Yeah, and it looks like the majority of you
sign.
guys. I would say the majority of you guys are on the Twitter live stream. jump into the chat and Twitter. You post up, we'll see your stuff, and we'd love you to engage.
Yeah, let us know. Drop the comments, questions. Maybe do you agree with our opinions? Do you want to challenge the opinion? Are you of the same like mine? Let us know, my homies. Open forum. The link, I'll pop it up again. If you guys are watching on the YouTube, there is a StreamYard link there. You don't need a camera. You could just come on and say your piece. A big question for you guys moving forward. Is this a sign of defensive growth from the Rapids to be able to go to a place like this and to walk away with the clean sheet? We've seen the better performers of our on our team was the defensive line, right? Not the defensive line, but Harrington and Rob Holding. My homies, like I said, is this showing defensive growth? What do you guys think? Crash, how do you feel about that, bro?
Well, I mean, anytime you get a clean sheet, defense did their job. And you watch the game, no matter what you think, no matter how you looked at this, you'd say, if I'm a defender on this team, we did our job, we won the game. Like, it's a win to you.
Yeah.
If I'm on the front attacking line, we lost. So I think you look at the two sides of the same team, and your perspective is gonna be different. So, I mean, they all should walk away with a positive step, forward. But I think the benefit is we're going into Vancouver with a little bit left wanting, right? We're not getting this massive relief of we killed it. We knocked down LAFC. No, we came off of a loss to Messi. We played well, and we went into LAFC. We got a point. They're going to be still hungry. So I think, it if anything, it's a positive sign for growth.
Yeah, I agree, my homie. Just looking here through the notes. What about the way the ref started to just give the yellow cards out? I mean, we seen some of the LAFC players being a bit physical through the first half, and then he kind of waited to the second half to start handing out those yellow cards. But some of our players even got into some yellow card problems, which is probably why Hamzat was the one taken off instead of Josh Atencio. What I've probably seen the game was just becoming a bit more physical, and he probably thought that his number 8 would Hamzat would have probably picked up another foul if he was going to stay in there. But that kind of did come back and bite us in the ass. We seen Atencio kind of grabbing the hammy and not there at 100%. So thoughts on that, bro? You think we left ourselves short there? I mean, at that, I don't know who was on our bench. Who could we probably have brought in, made it differently? Crash, I think we kind of just did what we could have with what we had at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think they did what they could. They rotated Wayne back to fill that midfield spot and got Paxton up, and then we got Manyoma. So, I mean, in reality, I think Wells did all the substitutes that he could. I mean, the only other option that I could see would be is if we were able to bring Atencio off, you could push Paxton back as an 8, which is, a position he's comfortable with. And then you maybe get somebody like an Alex Harris that comes in to play that midfield. But again, that's still a big jump for him. I don't think he's quite there yet. And so, it's a way to manage it and kind of way to go about it. But I think it was, the best they could do with what players they had on the bench.
Yeah. And Crash, I want to shift the focus a little bit and ask you about Hoffa. A lot of times I big him up, you know what I mean? The comparisons that I make with him, but sometimes I feel like Hoffa does drop a bit too far back, that he takes himself out of the play, right? If he is our striker and he is having to drop back a little bit to kind of do maybe a false 9 or even drop into a 10, when he's dishing that ball out, he's got to be very quick to get to that back post if that's where we're trying to get the ball to, or even if that, like, he just kind of takes himself out of the equation. Don't get me wrong, he can do brilliant passes at any given time. I say this all the time. He's got eyes on the back of his head that make him, just that much more versatile. But How important is it for us to keep Hoffa a bit more up top so that maybe when these early crosses are coming in, we have our striker there to Hoffa could get his head on him, homie, and put him in the back of the sack.
Yeah.
That's not an issue. But when he's, a third down the pitch because he's the one that helped open up the play. I mean, and this is not a go at Hoffa. He's a hardworking guy. He presses. He probably loves to be able to have that responsibility and that freedom of creativity. Is that going to hinder us in scoring goals in the future, Crash?
Um, maybe. I kind of go middle of the road. Maybe. I think it's tough when you don't have that person in the box to kind of head away those balls. But the other side of it too is he was creating those opportunities. So I think, this game was interesting. I think with Paxton not starting, the way that they played, you were using Hoffa as that creator, and it was a different style that I think we've seen. But yeah, I don't know. He's more dangerous when he's occupying those center backs, making it hard for them to know what to do. And this time he had to shift inward. He was coming in, so I think that was probably the other reason why Yapi didn't have such a good as many opportunities. And even Sealy at times, I think Sealy had a really amazing game, which we can probably touch on next. But the opportunities didn't come as much because the channels weren't open because he wasn't pulling center backs in and some of those things. So I think also the center backs with LAFC are probably more intelligent when it comes to the game than maybe the Miami guys were. So they were getting sucked in because they couldn't handle Hoffa, where maybe Hoffa wasn't as much of a concern to them. And so they let him do what he needed to do in front of them and just kind of covered the space behind. So, yeah, maybe a bit of that. We'll see what happens, late, maybe next couple games and see if it shifts and changes. But I'm not concerned about it at the moment, but it's always possible that it could be a problem later because it definitely doesn't help our creating chances in the box. It helps build, the chances on building up and finding the seams. We just didn't find any this time around.
Yeah, no, fair shout, my homie. And let's touch a little bit on Dante Sealy. He was kind of unlucky. I think he was unlucky to get subbed out, bro. What do you think? I mean, on the day where he was one of our better performers on the pitch, he was the first one off.
Well, it was a planned sub, right? I think Dante knew he was getting 60 minutes. I think with the congestion, with the midweek game, that Wells is just saying you're getting 60 minutes and that's all you're getting. And I'm guessing the reason why Paxton was there and why they subbed when they did with Manungu, it had to be either a congestion kind of fitness, like when we're getting everybody the certain amount of minutes to keep them fresh. I don't think it was because he did anything wrong. So I think it was just as unlucky for him to get pulled off. But I think that was going to happen regardless of the situation in front of him, because he was playing well. He was creating some art. I mean, he had that banger of a free kick that was right on target that Hugo Lloris got a finger to. Yeah. He didn't get a finger to it. That was our goal. I mean, that was beautiful. So I want to see Sealy keep going. He's gonna keep nailing those balls, and I think he's just gonna start getting more and more confident with those outside of the box shots like that, which is what we need. We need somebody who's dangerous from those places because we're not taking those shots, right? The same shot that Messi took against us on Saturday, right? We were in a couple of those spots today, and we didn't take a rip. We didn't try to get the ball on target, and I think that we really need to be more clinical in those spaces than trying to get the perfect shot.
Yeah. No, I agree, my homie. Look, and Hugo has been very good for LAFC this whole season. So he came up clutch, making some pretty big plays, some pretty big saves. Crash, what is your biggest takeaway from this game?
Biggest takeaway from this game is this is a team that I think Matt Wells said it in his press conference before they left. they asked, what are your thoughts on going to play in LAFC? We haven't ever gotten a result. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. This team's never played there. This is a new team.
Ooh, I like
This is a
that.
new team.
I like that.
So I think that's the key of it. And the way I look at it is, throw out all the old Rapids stuff and concerns that we had. It's going to be hard. We have the history, we have the scars, and we have the open wounds that haven't healed. But this is a new team. We're playing well. We're not. I'm not going to say we're the best team in the West or in the league by any means, but we're a competitive team. We're making it hard for people to beat us, which is what we want. And I think we were talking about where we were in the table, and that loss to Toronto was a big one. We should have won that game. There's no reason we shouldn't have, gotten a result. That's 3 points. That puts us in, let's see here. If we win that game, that puts us in, let me get to the table real quick. So we are, 13 points, 16. So we're tied for 5th and 6th with RSL and Sounders. And then you look at that Miami game. If Messi doesn't do Messi things, then that's 17 points, and we're right there with LAFC and Minnesota United in 3 and 4. If we win that game, we're in 3rd. So right now, we're a team of missed opportunity and moments, but we're a team that can be there. I'm not going to say we could have. We can be there. And so this is a new team. So let's give it some patience and see how it goes. And then we're going to need to see how Wells can adjust and change as the league starts figuring out how we play and how they're going to play against us.
Well, and I think that right there is my biggest takeaway, right? Is you kind of said that a couple of times is, if this is how we're going to approach the games, then other teams are going to figure that out, right? They'll suss that out right away. So I guess what I want to take away from this game is, were we just that focused? Were we just one track mind to go to have the possession, to try and pick the lock, to try and score the goal, to try and dominate, like all the things that Matt Wells says, my biggest takeaway is, are we going to have to skew that a little bit and say, all right, we're going to be able to do that against the Houstons, against, who else is down there? Maybe just the lower, the St. Louis's and the KCs and all these lower teams where we know that we will do that. And are we going to have to maybe skew our expectations when we play against these teams that, look, I for one, I thought LAFC was going to come out swinging, and they didn't. And it goes back to what we kind of been talking about at the beginning of the pod. Was it because they just knew that we weren't going to be able to make anything happen, and they just let us run ragged? So my biggest takeaway is, Matt Wells, how are we going to approach this game against Vancouver? Are we going to go so gung-ho and and I kind of hate to say it this way, but one track, just one way minded, you know what I mean? Or are we going to say, okay, we have to not be so reliant on, just having possession all game, because that didn't do nothing for us today.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're going to change it. I think we're going to keep playing our game, and I think we're still going to have that dominant style of play. But the question is are we going to adjust when it's so lopsided? But what do you do in that moment, right? You just give them back the ball, right? And so I think we can't change our mentality. We're not going to change our style just because of the team lets us. But the real question is do we speed the game up or slow the game down, right? And so we're going to still want to keep possession, but are we going to wait for a moment, or are we going to, try to push for that? And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. He's going to have to adjust. The question I'm going to have is, do we start seeing more opportunities, to get balls over the top when we start when we're not being pressed, when we're not we're not getting the pressure that we would expect to get. They just want us to run around and pass the ball and get tired. Then we need to figure out some way to mitigate that a little bit. Maybe playing more direct, being prepared for that. Really being clinical with our passing. To the wide spaces, finding those line breaking passes. If we can't do that, we're just kind of playing it back and back, and then we're going forward and then coming back and going forward and coming, like, you're just gonna get tired. We're going to need to be more direct in those moments to ensure that we're not, just wearing ourselves out for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that, my homie. I agree with that. Crash, is there anything that maybe you wanted to discuss about the game that we didn't bring up yet?
No, I think at the end of the day, it was anytime you get a point on the road, especially in MLS, especially against a top 3, top 4 team in the league, that's great. I mean, that's a positive result for anyone, right? And so I think a point on the road is more than I expected in these 3 games necessarily. So, so take that to Vancouver and maybe we get another point, or maybe we can get another 3, right? And so, end of the day, positive result at the end of it. Some opportunities to learn. I think Wells maybe got to see something. They're going to be staying on the West Coast, not coming back, so they're going to be a little more fresh, I would imagine, by the time they get to Vancouver.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps to keep them acclimated and good mindset. So we'll see.
Yeah. Crash, Saturday at 8:30 p.m. You think you would be available? I would love to maybe do this again, man. I had a lot of fun doing the watch along, and recapping it as well. Homie, we'll have to see if we can fit it into the schedule.
Yeah, we'll connect with everybody for that game ahead of time, just like we did this. I would imagine I would be able to make that happen. So we'll keep you all posted. But yeah, let's kind of jump into kind of previewing that game. If you want, where I know we're kind of gonna get to the point where we're just trying to wrapping up. We're almost been live for 3 hours. So thank you all for who's been hanging with us. Thank you all for listening. And thank you all for who's listening on the pod for the moment. But yeah, we got Vancouver on Saturday. It's going to be a interesting game. They're sitting at second in the West right now after this the games today, sitting on 21 points with only 8 games played. So they're potentially tied with San Jose at the top with 24. What are your thoughts, Leo? What do you think?
Yeah, no, bro. I think to go up against a team like Vancouver after this tough matchup today, bro, this is going to be a huge character test for us. Huge test for Matt Wells. Just 3 back-to-back-to-back huge games. You know what I mean? What I'm looking forward to is there's going to be changes in the lineup, my homie. That's probably going to be, we'll probably see some changes. So I want to see the way we go in and just attack this game. I don't know. I don't know if Vancouver is going to sit back and let us have the ball. You know what I mean? I could see them really trying to attack us. They have a pretty good team as well, bro, to want to sit back and play a boring brand of football. Just pull up their goals. I know you kind of talked about it earlier, but um, let's see here. Vancouver with 22 goals. Go back to that.
Yeah, 22
And only
more.
very little allowed. So they're scoring goals as well, homie. Right? They've got 22 goals fired, which is tied for second. But we're at 21, like you said. So I want a goal fest, Crash. I wanted a goal fest for this game today. We didn't get it. So what I want to see on the next one is a goal fest. Forgive me for saying a goal fest. That means they're going to score on us. But I want to see that. I want to see the Rapids in that position, going toe to toe. I want to see what we're. Look, in order to be the best, homie, you have to beat the best. And what a better way to do it than a freaking just a slugfest, bro. I'm a fan. I want to see goals, Crash.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a big test. Vancouver has been a team that has been very hard to beat. I think they're 3 wins in their last 4. Their last loss was to the San Jose Earthquakes, who beat them 1-0. So they've got Minnesota. They beat 6-0. Who's Minnesota's 4th in the West right now. They beat Portland 3-2. They beat New York 2-0. They beat Kansas City 3-0. I mean, their last 5 matches, they're 5-1 or 4-1. I mean, and so you can't. They're going to be a very challenging team. This is going to be a bigger test than LAFC was.
I agree.
And so this is going to really help define the team that we are. Like we had mentioned before, these 3 games, Miami, the way we played, the way we showed up, the way we were able to score, the way we responded, we let Messi do Messi things. And so we lost that game, but we're part of the conversation. Now, drawing LAFC 0-0, the boring game when it comes to paper, but that's still showing you're a top team in the West. You're playing against the top and not conceding and getting a point. That's good on the road. Here's the next test. How do we show up? This is it. What team are we going to be, Matt? And
I agree.
This game on Saturday is going to be the defining moment. Do we crumble? Do we get dominated from them? Do we concede 3 goals and can't score? If we do, we're going to be that middle of the road table team. If we can make this a game, make this exciting, we can score some goals. We can score goals and get a point, or we can win this game, which will be really tough. We're in that conversation now.
Well, and then I want to also point out, Crash, we've got a huge game after Vancouver. So Matt Wells is probably going to take that into consideration too, because after that Saturday game against Vancouver, we play on the Wednesday against them lot down the road. So yeah, we're talking about 4 massive games back to back, bro. We're in the thick of it right now, my homies, and I'm just gonna say a point tonight is Matt Wells is probably happy with the point. Don't get me wrong, who wouldn't be? But he's also probably left a bit wanting more because he probably knows his team could have got more. So I'm very interested to see exactly how we're going to set up. Now that I took a look and noticed that Colorado Springs game is just a couple of days after that Saturday. Squad rotation, homie. It's gonna be an important squad rotation for the Rapids this week coming up.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if we get Connor and KDP back. They're the only 2 players that are currently on that on the injury list. I'm not sure how far out either one of them are, but if we're able to get them back,
5 months.
5 months for who? Both?
Pudi Petro's out for 5 months.
Oh dang!
He got I think he ended up getting surgery, and he's going to be out for 5 months.
Oh, well, dang. Well, and then I guess for Ronan, I think that's going to be the key for us because we could use that depth in the midfield, and I think we are a bit lacking. So hopefully we get Ronan back here shortly. We could use some of his expertise, especially those dime passes that he can do, those spaces. So but we're going to need it, right? It's a pretty congested schedule. We've got Saturday, Vancouver, Wednesday, Springs at home. We go away to Houston on Saturday, and then we have a week. Saturday, we're back home, and then we're back to another Wednesday game in May. So, I mean, it's coming fast and furious. It's going to be play and play and play, and then we get into the kind of that mid-season break for the World Cup. So, we can rack up a bunch of points coming up. This is going to be the test. Vancouver is going to be the test of how we show up, and can we be the team that we were saying we are? And if we can, these May games are going to be fun and exciting because I think we're going to pick up a bunch of points playing the way we are.
Crash, I have a question for you, bro. Reggie Cannon was on the bench today, so that means he's obviously going to start, maybe getting some minutes. Where do you see him getting minutes at in this team right now? We have, we're pretty stacked on I mean, we have, well, and I'll even say it. Matt Wells has said he only needs 2 players in every position, and we have a few. Well, I don't know if it's a few extra, but is Keegan going to be the odd man out, or is Reggie Cannon going to be the odd man out? Because I mean, where do you see a spot for Reggie Cannon in
I
the
don't know. I
team?
mean, Keegan to me is the safer play. I think Keegan is more consistent and created more opportunities and played generally way better than really any of the subs at fullback that I've seen. I think Navarro has been playing really well. I think Jackson Travis has been playing really well. But I also have they've been doing the job, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And Kosi Thompson, again, same thing. He's come in and he's played and done the job. He got, obviously scored a brace on his opener, which was amazing. But he's doing the job, but he's not doing it like he's not excelling at it, right? He's not like after that first game, I'm kind of thinking, okay, what can he do? Where's more? I want to see more from him. I want to see consistency, right? And Keegan's always been consistent. And I think that's the difference for me. So I don't know. Reggie's going to be tough to get back into the squad, I think. He's a good player, but he's also not been a great player. So it could be tough, a tough, mix once Wells gets his people and he's excited for him. I think it's going to take maybe an injury or somebody get sidelined for Reggie to really get a solid start.
Yeah. And just with our squad overall, Crash, with the late business that we did in the window, now we've had some time to crack on after the window. We're actually starting to see the players that we picked up late in the window, contribute even into the team, bro. How do you feel about what Matt Wells is trying to do and with the players that he's doing it with?
I mean, he's getting the most out of his players. That's for sure.
They're bought in. They're bought in.
You look at, yeah, absolutely. They're there. They want to play. They are buying into his system. I mean, you hear them when they're having conversations. They're saying the right things that he wants them to say. I'm just curious to see, what that environment looks like at the end, later in the season. Do we keep getting this consistent growth or do we plateau and we kind of hit a limit of what's capable? Or do we see him keep getting better and better, as their game IQ increasing? Is their quality on the ball changing? Are they able to make these passes very consistently without heavy touches? Like, these are all things that happen when you practice over and over and over again. But I don't know. That'll be my biggest test of kind of those players, because he has been able to get them going really well. I think Georgi and Kosi are still brand new. They're still meshing. We saw some of that, I think, during the Miami game with Georgi, right? They're not quite on the same page. They're close, but they're not quite there. I think Kosi's kind of the same thing, not quite there. And Miguel Navarro is kind of the same thing. He's been on the team, but he got injured and kind of was out. So he should be up to par at this point. But it'd be a big question to see if they can really find that I'm fully locked into the team. And that's what's going to take these newcomers to really shine in my book. But they've been playing well. It just you can just tell that they're on a different step sometimes than the others.
Yeah, no, I agree. Crash, we're coming up on 11:30 p.m. I'm a bit knackered, my homie. We had an excellent time. Look, my homies, if you're still here, first of all, we appreciate it, honestly. What a fabulous time being able to do this tonight. And I'm going to invite you guys to check out our Instagram page. If for some reason you haven't yet, we're at the Confluence Pod. This segment of this live stream will be going down for our I guess our now this will be our bi-weekly episode for us this week. Just a quick one, probably. If it doesn't make 100% sense, it's because we are two knackered individuals at this time. But look, it was honestly fun. Crash, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we log off, my homie?
No, other than just thank you to everybody. I think, like we mentioned before, this is all about just creating community, a place for us to talk, have a conversation, meet. And so I'm excited to meet more of you, see you guys at the games, engage with you online, engaging you in these streams. I really enjoy this, and I'm glad that we were able to do this live. And thank you for everyone who contributed and jumped in the chat. We really appreciate it. So thank you all for helping grow this channel and the conversation for sure.
Yeah, for sure, my homies. I hope you guys had a fun time like we did. We look forward to doing this again. And keep it locked in, my homies. Keep it locked in. Up the pits.
South Bank lads, Leo Coys and a homie crash. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. Yeah. It's chance, unbound, rounds, I love the head to the wars. If it's piss, you're off the sea, free aid. This time is now. Locals on the jump to hold it down. Like the stream and do 5 stars. The mile high hot spur and crash the car.